Well, guys, the Wild West that crypto is continues to deliver, with someone losing $50 million in a swap that they completed for USDT to Aave yesterday. Someone wanted to buy Aave tokens, and they had $50 million worth of Tether. They swapped it, and they only ended up with $36,000 worth of Aave, essentially losing 99% of the money they initially started with. So, just to get it out of the way, was it an accident or not? Some people are saying that this guy is it's like a fancy way to kind of do some tax loss harvesting or whatever. I'm going to assume that's not the case right now. I think Titan Builder was one of the block builders that ended up making, I think, like 19 million or plus dollars for actually building the block itself. I think MEV searchers made like a couple $100,000. CostSwap made a ton of money on fees. Everyone made money besides this guy, pretty much. And we're just going to assume that in this case, this was not a tax loss harvest in any fancy way, right? This is, laundering or whatever, right? We're going to assume that this was someone tried to swap a token and they lost money. First of all, Stani from Aave mentioned that the guy was using a mobile wallet, right? First of all, why would someone have $50 million in a mobile wallet? I have no idea. Again, it's a hot wallet, right? It's not a cold storage. Number one. Number two, the person was prompted. For example, if you've done a swap in crypto before, you know that if there's very high slippage on the trade that you're going to make, it'll tell you that. Almost every interface does that. And usually there's like an extra button to click to actually accept that high slippage. It's a simple click and you can accept it. Aave in the backend uses CowSwap, and there's been a couple of different takes. There's a lot of people on the side of, crypto is permissionless, it's open, it's decentralized finance, you accept the risks that you take when you're using DeFi. And there's another side that's saying, hold on, being open and permissionless is not the same as still having a North Star of protecting users and their money. And maybe back in the day, I would have been more on the first side, but I don't know. I just seeing how nonchalant Stani was about saying, yeah, this is just how crypto is. And, essentially they accepted zero fault in it. What happened, it was my understanding, and just said, yeah, the guy's SOL. Well, I think they said actually they refund him to $600,000 or so on fees, but that's it. So the guy still off $49 million. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. I don't know why you'd refund someone if you didn't accept, fault for it. I am of the opinion that if we want to progress as an industry, especially as it comes to the DeFi native apps, that stuff is not acceptable. I don't think, in all reality, there are other applications I think LiFi, I think LlamaSwap, for example, had came out as well and mentioned that this is not possible on their platform. As in, if there is a trade, because again, if you bought and traded meme coins before, you can do trades with high slippage, 20%, 30, 40% even, which is a crazy haircut, but you can still do it, especially for meme coins because they tend to be very low liquidity. When you're swapping from Tether to Aave, there's usually a step in between that needs you to, the trade routes it through ETH or wrapped ETH. So technically in the back end, the Tether is being traded for wrapped ETH and the wrapped ETH is being traded for Aave. Apparently the slippage, or the major problem was between the wrapped ETH and Aave pair, for whatever reason. And my understanding is that Aave specifically uses CowSwap on the front end because that's how labs can collect their fees. Whereas maybe if other providers had stepped in, or if they had other providers available that for whatever reason maybe would have had a better quote, that those would have filled in instead of CowSwaps. So the person wouldn't have had that 99% haircut on the trade that they made. What I'm saying is that it's you shouldn't, again, LlamaSwap and Leafy said this already. You should not be able to allow someone to make that kind of trade. 99% slippage, you're losing money. It doesn't matter what you're buying. At no point in crypto history, even if it's a meme coin, would it have made sense for you to swap and lose 99.9% of your trade on slippage. At no point, would that make sense? Bit my tongue. At no point would that make sense. Zero, right? So to me, and I get it, open, permissionless, I'm all for all of that. If someone wants to lose all their money, then let them. Go for it. But I'll be honest with you, I think there's a happy medium where for example, if there's a high impact trade, then yeah, you can click the button or whatever. But like, if there's a trade where you're losing 60 plus percent, 70, 80 plus percent of what you're trading on slippage, you should literally need to type out. I think someone put this on Twitter, and I agree with it. You should be able to type out, I acknowledge that I'm losing X percent of the money that I'm trading on this swap. Like, it should be extremely, extremely explicit, and not necessarily to not allow people to use the money the way they want to, but to protect them. You know, again, if you have $50 million in a wallet, you know, Lord knows who this person was or what kind of individual they were. I who knows? I mean, I don't know. If that was me, I would be rolling right now. That's crazy. I wouldn't have made the trade to begin with, obviously, if the slippage was that high. And I think the other thing to bring up is that we don't know what the actual interface said. Stani mentioned that, you know, as far as he's concerned, that it did say it was high slippage. They gave him the quoted price that he would have like the actual amount he would have ended up with. So he should have saw that he was going to end up with $36,000 worth of Aave, apparently. So again, you could just say it's his fault, which is fine. But these headlines don't help. You know what I mean? Like, no one should be losing $50 million in slippage. It doesn't matter what the scenario is. So I don't know. I just like see a lot of conversation about it on X, and it surprises me that so many people are like, "Oh, well, DeFi is open and permissionless, so this is fine." Like, no, dude. We're entering a phase where blockchain is supposed to be the rails that powers all of finance, not just decentralized finance. And these headlines don't help DeFi in any way, to be honest. Like, it's like zero. It's a net negative, right? Like no one's gonna look at this shit and be like, wow, I can do anything with my money. I can even lose all of it. That's the power of crypto. Absolute comedy, man. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. I am just appalled by some of the commentary I've seen here, and I'll tell you something. I usually use Llama Swap, and I'm glad I do. See you guys in the next one.